Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singer songwriters and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest is a Ukrainian-Canadian singer songwriter and actress. Starting her musical journey at age 6, her versatile voice and eclectic style refuses to be confined to a single genre, embracing the diversity of her musical influences. Known for her engaging and energetic live performances, she interacts with her audience through dance and music, turning every show into a shared experience. So, let's spill the tea with Vitalia. Welcome, Vitalia.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. You've got a very interesting background that we're going to explore. First of all, we're going to start off with talking about your musical influences. We know that your mom sang in a choir. You have an older sister who has many redeeming qualities. However, music is not one of them. And so, where did you get your musical influences from?
Yeah, well, it's definitely started when I was a kid, when my mom would just sang me lullabies to sleep every single evening. But the Ukrainian community in general here in Montreal is very much open to singing all the time. So I went to Ukrainian school, I would sing there. I kind of learned to harmonize there too, because even at Ukrainian camps, we would always have like the sopranos and the altos and everybody in between. Um, and we'd always kind of be creating a whole show out of, we'd have shows here and there for Christmas, for every special occasion that there was, but there was always an opportunity to sing, to really put our singing talents out there. And I feel like from a young age, I kind of developed a strong sense of what it is to be a musician to a certain extent because of that.
Tell us about the music scene in Montreal. What's it like? I've interviewed people from Vancouver and from Edmonton and from the Winnipeg area and the East Coast, and of course, Toronto as well. What's the music scene like in Montreal?
I feel like the music scene here is very tight-knit. Everybody knows each other. Everybody, like, if you know one person that's in the music community, you kind of know a little bit of everyone. But it's a really great community. Everybody's really welcoming and always trying to help each other out. So that's the really nice thing. It's like if I'm looking for someone to open for my show, it won't be too difficult to find. Like I'll just contact a friend of mine, be like, "Hey, are you available?" And it'll be no problem. And even just like the community of like, "Oh, I'm just starting my music. I'm trying to build my band." They're gonna reach out to people who maybe have more experience, and then they'll help each other out and be like, "Hey, well, this is my bass player if you want his contact. If you need a photographer for a show, like just yesterday I posted a little Instagram note where I was like, "Oh, I'm looking for a concert photographer for Sunday." And so many people reached out and I'm like, "Okay, wow, okay." I didn't even have to like go through my roster of people. I just everybody reached out and gave me a little tip. So that was really, really nice and heartwarming. So it's very tight-knit, I would say, and it's there's a lot of love. There's a lot of love there. There's a lot of jams happening, a lot of culture. I don't know how to explain it. It's great. Yeah, everybody's really, really happy to help each other out.
I'm thinking about when you write a song in English. It's it must be very difficult just to take an English song because you've got your rhythm and your lyrics and your rhyming words in English to put them into French or Ukrainian or Spanish because there's different words that they mean different things and they rhyme different ways. So when you are writing in another language other than English, is it more difficult to just write a different song in that language or translate a song from English to say Ukrainian?
Ooh, I definitely feel like it'd be easier to write a different song than it is to translate. Personally, I think that it's possible to do, but it's definitely a lot more difficult, I would say. I think that because of those different rhymes, it makes it a lot harder, whereas just like writing a song that's in the same theme or even just like a completely different song would just
Hmm.
be simpler, I would say. But
And
in regards to Spanish,
yes.
oh, yeah, in regards to Spanish, I haven't tried that much yet, just because I would say that I speak three and a half languages. My Spanish is kind of 80% there, but I do forget some words if I'm not practicing enough and I'm not in a Latin American, Latin speaking country. But I think that I'll especially be ready for a collaboration. Like there's a lot
Mm.
of artists that I would love to collaborate in the Latin American world of music. And I think that once I do a little collaboration, that would be an amazing opportunity for me to really showcase my Spanish.
You studied music at Concordia University, specializing in jazz.
Mhm.
Uh, how how did your study of piano? Because by the time you get 9 years of piano under your belt, you've got a tremendous amount of theory in there as well. How did it help you going to university and studying music there? That's like next level stuff. So what did that help you do that you couldn't do before when you had grade 9 piano?
Hmm. Well, I think that piano definitely gave me a basis of how to like understanding music for sure. Not only that, of course, I already spoke about my training ear-wise because I think that there's two very different elements of music where there's ear training and there's theory. So ear training is a lot more the side of like, well, you have to be able to understand which note is being played right now. You have to have that kind of like awareness of where the note is in regards to pitch. And theory is kind of its own thing that can get very complicated at times. I would say that I think it made me more confident into stepping into that music program in the first place because I was able to practice all the things that I needed to practice on the piano to be able to get my knowledge to the level where it needed to be for university standard. The thing that I loved with Concordia, though, is that they are pretty flexible in regards to getting everyone on the same level,
Mhm.
theory-wise. And even though I did 9 years of piano, I finished when I was 16, and then between 16 and I think I started university in 2021. So I was 20. I would want to say I was 20. Um, yeah, so there was like a little 4 year gap where I was doing stuff on my own, but it wasn't necessarily theoretical stuff or I wasn't focused on that. And
Mhm.
then because I had that training, I was able to kind of a couple months before going into the program, I just was able to put that information together. So it was just a tool for me to feel more comfortable in that new environment of university. That's really scary, especially in regards to theory. But Concordia did a great job at kind of putting everyone on that same level and being like, okay, you're good. We can learn together from here.
Some artists have suggested to me that before they had formal training, especially university level training, before that, their music was very free flowing and a little bit messy and a little bit all over the place. Once they got the formal training, it became very structured. And they had indicated to me that perhaps that formal education ge- uh, held them to too much of structure, and they wish that they had a more free flowing. They were more free flowing like before. Did you find that after you went and studied music at university that you just couldn't help yourself? It was so drummed into you that you had to stay with the structure, or did the jazz specialization release you from that structure a bit?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both because I've definitely noticed how before my university program, I took this in my first semester, my second semester in university, I took a songwriting course that really got me on the journey that I am now because I started believing in myself and in my songwriting craft and being like, okay, people like my friends actually think this is good. Like maybe I should do something about it. And so before I even took that class, I remember, yeah, there wasn't that much structure because I remember in that specific class, now that I listen to those songs, I'm like, I really love those songs that I wrote. But they were quite messier in the way that they were kind of written, were a lot more improvised. But weirdly enough, jazz is one of those fields that, you get to improvise, you really get to try out these new colors, new notes that you wouldn't necessarily go to otherwise. So although I think that my my songs have become more structured in the pop sense of the
Mhm.
word. So I've structured my songs in a more pop structure way, um, because I've learned that that's how pop songs are written with a little bit of time in that songwriting class, especially. But I also developed my ear in jazz, and thus I kind of have this improvising ear that lended itself well into including that in my songs. So I have a few songs, especially in my earlier days, where I have little scatting section. I'm like,
That's very
so
jazzy.
yeah, so I kind of have like these little scatting sections within a pop song that I wrote. So like my song Darling, for example, that's on streaming platforms. I feel like those are my earlier days, but that's what's really funny about it too. It's that it does have that jazz side to it. So now I think that I'm doing a pretty good job at balancing both of those things and being like, okay, this is what is a pop structure. Do I want to stray away from it? Do I want to conform to it? And then I still improvise. Like the way that I write is very like improvising based. I just press record on my phone, start playing something on the piano, start singing something, whatever sticks, sticks. And then when I re listen back, I'm like, okay, this is catchy. This not so much, like, oh, I love these lyrics. Oh, those lyrics maybe not that much, like so I kind of like make a basis out of that and my process is very improvised. So I think that the jazz structure, jazz stuff that I've learned has definitely given me a lot of freedom. But in regards to the structure, I kind of decide when I want to stray away from it or conform to it.
Let's get into one of the songs that Vitalia wrote. This song draws the close comparison to falling in love with someone who is as addictive as a drug. Let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Vitalia and her song, Molly.
I'll never get over you. Yeah, Molly, I cried so many tears over you. The makeup is running off your face. Tell me, are you worth the chase? Left me, but you left a trace. I'll follow you at your own pace. You ignored the messages I sent. You never explained what you meant. You never even paid for it, but you had me with your little accent. 'Cause I'll never get over you. Yeah, Molly, I cried so many tears over you. Yeah, Molly, I'm in love with you. The raindrops are falling out the sky. Tell me, is this goodbye? You left me and my tears to dry. I'll follow you until I'm high. You ignored the messages I sent. You never explained what you meant. You never even paid for it, but you had me with your little accent. 'Cause Molly, I'll never get over you. Yeah, Molly, I cried so many tears over you. Molly, I'll never get over you. Yeah, Molly, I cried so many tears over you.
That was Molly by Vitalia. Vitalia, I'm going to assume that because this is a song about addiction, there was no accident that you chose the name Molly for the song. So tell us what's the song about and what was the inspiration to write it?
Yeah. So actually, I wrote it in January of 2024. So it's a pretty recent song in that sense. Sometimes it takes a while for a song to be released, but I really had like an urge of inspiration with this one. And it's definitely about falling for someone, but it's about the highs and lows of love. And it's just comparing love to a drug because love really takes you on all those highs, on all those ups and downs, and you really, really feel those highs and you really, really feel those lows. And drugs do the same to a certain extent. That's why I really wanted to kind of compare those two together, but especially because it's a queer relationship in which, there's so much sense of discovery sometimes for myself at least as a bi individual. I found that there's been a lot of self-discovery, and I feel like there's even more highs and lows that are kind of ingrained into that because I'm exploring my sexuality in that sense as well. So it's kind of it's kind of that. It's comparing both together, but I find that when people ask me, sometimes I don't want to give away the answer because I like when people make up their own interpretation and they're like, well, I think it's about the drug. And some people think it's about a person, but it's like, well, what if it's both? What if it's what you want it to be?
And I
Yeah.
think that's the beautiful part about music is that no matter what the songwriter was writing about, everybody has a different interpretation. Vitalia, how do people find out more about you and your music? What's the website, socials, and streaming platforms?
Yeah, well, you can look me up on my website, which is Vitalia Music. You'll be able to find it even if you just do a little Google search there. Otherwise, on Instagram, it's Vitalia Music. YouTube, it's Vitalia.music on Instagram. On YouTube, it's Vitalia little underscore music, I believe. TikTok, same thing. So it's pretty much Vitalia Music everywhere that you would find me.
We have been in conversation with Vitalia. Vitalia, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.